Yo, what it do? It's me. It's that wrestling dude. We're joined here by a man who's the Viral Pro Heavyweight Champion and Apple City Championship Wrestlers champ, the necessary evil of pro wrestling, the handsome devil himself, man, Drew Hood. Welcome.
Yes. Bow down, plebeians and sinners, everybody, all heathens. Yes, there's I.
Bow down, bow down. So let's get right into it. Who trained you? How many years been at it, man? Where you based out of?
Yes, sir. So currently, I'm based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and my training history is as follows. I was trained initially by wrestlers named Jamie Lee and David Cody, who is no longer with us. May he rest in power. My continued training has been under James Johnson. I've been guided along by guys like Billy Brash, Ethan Case, the Infinite Man. There's a long list of people that I consider mentors who have helped me along and guided me along the right path.
Takes
And
a village.
yeah, a wealth of knowledge. Anybody that has been anywhere and done anything has lent a hand, and I can, be eternally grateful for that. And for a timeline's sake, it's been about 6.5 years, coming up on 7 this August.
All right. So what's your wrestling origin story? How'd you get into it?
Well, for me, I was just hanging out with a friend of mine, and this was back when I was a young, like 12 years old or so, and 11, 12, and he came over and he asked if he could use my computer, and he asked if he could check WWE.com. And I said, it's WWE.com. He pulls it up and, starts shifting through everything, and we start watching just a bunch of content. And now I had seen some pro wrestling stuff beforehand. I had been over at a friend's house, another friend's house, and SmackDown was on, and watching all these dudes throw each other around. I didn't really register what was going on. I just said, oh, this looks cool. But that friend's mom said, nope, and then switched the channel. So I didn't really get exposed to it at that point. Even further back than that, when I was like 6 years old, I was in Toys R Us. And this memory became unlocked the more into pro wrestling I got. I realized that we were in the toy section, and I was looking at wrestling action figures, WWF, like Kane, The Rock, and etc. And I was picking them up, and I was looking at them like, what is this? What is this going on? And my mom takes it and goes, absolutely not. And then puts it back, and then we just moved on. So it's just wild to me that, again, fast forward, my friend who is over is showing me WWE.com. And we're going through matches. We're going through all these promo segments and skits and things of that nature. And at that point, I was a theater kid, in addition to being, into sports like lacrosse, basketball, football, etc. And boy, did that just resonate with me. Just watching what people kind of name it as Broadway with body slams for professional wrestling, it was heaven. It was heaven on earth. So from that day forward, I was hooked. Hook, line, and sinker.
So you knew you were going to get into be a pro wrestler then and there?
I knew right then and there I was going to be a massive fan. Absolutely. I was a huge fan, and it was recording, Raw, SmackDown, ECW at the time. And there was one day where that same friend and I were watching the Hardy Boys DVD, and it was an origin story for them about them having a trampoline, setting up their own fed, and doing, the actual shows and going to their local fairs and things of that nature. The reason why it resonated with us so bad and so much is the Hardy Boys lived in Cameron, North Carolina, which from about here is like 45 minutes or so. And how else are we going to feel as young fans who watch these other young fans create a wrestling fed for themselves to chase their dreams and, realize their potential and etc. That for us was immediately where we said, I have a trampoline. Why don't we do our own thing? We'll create our own wrestlers. We'll create our own show. We'll go do what they did. Mind blown. That simple, right? Simple. But that was where we knew that we both wanted to be a wrestler. And I will say that he has gone on to achieve, a success wherever he wanted to in life, being an actor and so on. Shout out to Josh. Hey, buddy. For me, I pretty much knew from there that I was going to be involved in wrestling in some way, shape, or form.
And those were the Hardy Boys too. Like if you kind of think about it, there's not a lot of like cool characters kind of thing, cool wrestlers if you actually think about it. But like the Hardy Boys are, for me, they're cool, man. Like
they were so cool. Like Jeff and
Yeah.
Matt both, they were so unique and
Yeah.
charismatic in their own ways, and that just and the things they did to themselves and continue to do to
Yeah.
themselves,
Yeah, absolutely.
man, it's wild. It is. You got to respect it. You just have to.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
What's the craziest thing you did on the trampoline in the backyard? Jump off the roof?
I did not jump off the roof. No, I know someone that did, but so this is going to basically track with how I am in the business now. I was always so hyper focused on promos, character work, and like the performance of it and the presentation of it. So for me, the craziest things that we would do would be writing the most outlandish storylines that we could possibly imagine, from like, demons and like kidnappings and just like all this other stuff going on. So it was just whatever we could creatively come up with was what we would translate to YouTube. And it was a really good way, ironically enough, for us to practice it there. That way, later in life, whenever, a couple of us did get professionally trained, we already kind of had a creative side to us. We just needed the basics and the fundamentals and help putting things together. And it just made it that much quicker and easier for us to just get it. And we're like,
Yeah.
this is what we need to do.
No, I mean you're younger and you're more free to try new things and not have to worry about looking stupid, I guess, in the long run.
Yeah, having no sense of like, I don't know, dignity. I guess we just did whatever because we thought it was cool.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm a little bit older than you, but I'm kind of glad I didn't grow up in like that area of YouTube, man, because I would probably have so many cringeworthy videos out if that was the case. I came out, I was like in my 20s when it started, like early 20s, it started getting big. But I can only imagine if you would have Googled my name and I was around that age, with all the stuff that would have been out there.
Man, it maybe cringe, but I also look at it like building blocks.
Yeah.
I would not be where I am now or anything close to how I've performed and what I've become without those stages. So I look back at those moments where there's young me standing in front of a camera, awkwardly trying to translate that I'm a larger than life athlete. But I see that and I say, if I from then past me was here now and saw me doing what I do, I think past me would be the biggest fan of me now. And I think that's what's most important.
No, but that's good though, because that's half the more than, to me, it's more than half the battle. Like you can be shitty in the ring, man, but if you can entertain a crowd, man, like that's all you really need. Like you don't need to go out there and do 1,000 moves if you can do 3 moves, but entertain them at the same time.
Absolutely. I always am a moments and magic over moves guy, and I always will be. I understand that, like it's the most cliche thing now, but wrestling has all these different ice cream flavors, and it's up to you which flavors you like best. For me, it's always just going to be the people themselves. It's going to be the person or the character that's on screen. And for some of us, it's not even necessarily just a character. It's just us personified, on a volume amp. You have up to 10, maybe it's 11, 12, 13, or 15. Maybe we just turn ourselves all the way up. And that's just how we portray ourselves. Because I'll be egotistical here. I'm pretty eccentric. I'm pretty out there. I'm pretty outlandish and extroverted and larger than life, if you want to call it that way. But that's why pro wrestling is built for people like us. So it's just it's a great platform to be able to just create for everyone to see what we've got.
So you went into training right out of high school, or it took a couple years to get into it?
So my timing on everything is wild because out of high school, I went to a couple years of college because I did believe that, you should have a good backup plan. You should have, at least some building blocks in place for life to fall back on. But during that time period, I would frequently check like, oh, what schools are in the area or are people accepting applicants and things like that. But I just couldn't ever really pull the trigger. And I just don't know why. I couldn't tell you what the mental block was, but I just couldn't do it. It took a while. I'd started around like 24, 25 years old. So you're never too old to get started, in my opinion. And the timing worked out really well as well because of just how my life was at that point in time. And it was a big leap of faith of why am I holding back?
Yeah.
Why am I not putting forth the effort to get where I know I can go? So suck it up, buttercup, do it. And then as soon as I finally just broke through that mental barrier, I was like, what am I doing? Do it. And then I just took the first step and I said, okay, we're okay now.
It's always that first leap, man. The first walk, the first step. That's the killer one. Once after that, it's like, why didn't I do this years ago?
Bro, that it's not a regret in life, but it's definitely something I reflect back on, and I tell people all the time who, there's fans and there's friends and there's family that are always like, oh, how'd you get started, or why did you get started, or is it too late for me, or same kind of basic questions. And I always tell them, look, it's hard. It's one of the hardest, if not the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Go through training and then just try and survive in this insane world of professional wrestling, but it's worth it if you put the amount of effort that's needed. So I don't think it's too late for anybody. I think you do have to have rhino thick skin, metaphorically, literally. But I think everybody should at least fall in that ring once, because it'll knock every single derogatory word of professional wrestling out of your system. Especially that dreaded F word that I just still to this day, I always hear it. I say, you don't know. you just don't get it.
They don't get it at all. Was it easier transition from a trampoline to a ring, or was it a little bit difficult?
So doing shenanigans with my friends, we did trampoline stuff, but we also did, our typical backyard stuff where we actually did purchase a ring. And we did have some guys with us that had previous training or ongoing training, and we would actually, practice everything that we need to do. So I guess it's probably good that we had, even if it wasn't super professional, and I know admitting that to public, everyone's gonna be like, oh no, how dare you? But it's the past, it's how I got here. Taking those bumps back in the day and taking those falls at that point in time, I think calloused me up for whenever we did actually start doing legitimate training and going through the steps and starting at the very, very beginning. Because I gotta say, admittedly, if it were my first time ever getting in a ring, that first day of training, and then I probably would have been like, maybe I just stay outside the ring. Maybe I'm a manager, or maybe I just ref. Maybe I just dump the stripes. Maybe that isn't for me. But being pre-calloused a little bit helped me out significantly, I think.
Yeah, that's what everyone usually says is the falling on the back the first time is like the hardest thing because it's such an unnatural thing. Just to usually you used to kind of protect yourself, but for that it's just straight on back.
Yeah, just throw yourself to the ground and tuck your chin, or get a concussion, either or.
Were you Drew Hood since day one, or you have something embarrassing?
Well, as much as people are gonna say, oh, okay, sure. Every time I get this question, I always tell people, just me. Drew Hood's just my name. I was born Andrew, but Drew Hood. That's been me from day one. There's been a couple of creative character names from the YouTube days and the backyard days and stuff like that. But my main persona has just been me, because that's the one I obviously will connect with the most, because it's just me. So as long as there's a way to just be Drew Hood, then I'm gonna be Drew Hood. There is Andrew, there is Andy, which I hate. There's Drew, but there's also Drew Hood the wrestler. So which one do you get? That's the big question.
Do you think it would have been easier or harder if you would have started at 18, like right out of high school, compared to 24 when you're a little bit more grown and life whooped your ass a little bit more?
Yeah. I think the timing for me was better later, because if I started at 18, I wasn't in the best physical shape. I wasn't really, it was not as callous to the real world at that point in time either. So I had really grown up or matured. So I think it's better that I started when I did, because there have been a lot of things that happened by that point in time that really shaped me into, I'd say, a much better human being. So I think starting when I did was way better than if I would have started straight out of high school.
Yeah. And I see kind of the evolution too, because I saw pictures of you with the Malibu's Most Wanted visor backwards and upside down.
Yeah. The classics. I was an American Eagle kid. I was a preppy kid, like the polos and the khakis and the boat shoes, even though we don't own boats, stuff like that. So it was just it was one of those things where I was very blessed to grow up the way that I did, but it didn't really prep me as well for the future, as far as getting ready for what was about to happen. Um, so starting at 24, 25, not too bad.
At what point did you know, like, kind of like you made it, like you really got to figure it out and everything's clicking for you?
Ironically enough and funny enough, that didn't really happen until the past like year and a half. So again, being 6.5 years in, been up and down the road, been up and down the coast, been all over the place, have done extra work, have done a lot of really cool things that a lot of people don't get to do. And it was towards like, I'd say the beginning of last year, and then definitely going into the end of last year, beginning of this year, where I really started to realize there's a certain level to pro wrestling. And there's a level that if you want to be consistently at and farther, you have to put in X amount of work in the gym, on social media, in the presentation. It's just, there's so much more to it than just going out there and then the bell ringing, you doing your thing for 6 to 8 or 10 to 12, and then the bell ringing again, and then you leave. There is so much more to it. And being able to see and experience a lot of that over the past year and a half has just helped me really kind of Tetris my way into building the complete set of being like, that's how I need to lock in. That's where I need to dial in. That's where my focus needs to be. It's been a development into getting to where I am now, from a prince to a handsome devil, from a conductor of the hood hype train to a necessary evil. It's been a bunch of like moments, up, down, left, right, obtuse, acute, all these different angles to get to where I'm at now.
Yeah, you could tell too that you kind of put in the work and separating yourself, because I came across you just because of that. Before I even saw you at Generation Championship Wrestling, I came across you. And it was that, is like, you could tell you kind of know who you are now. Like, you carry yourself like, I know who the fuck I am, and like, you see a lot of these people still trying to figure themselves out still.
Yeah, it's there's no good way I can like translate it to people too. There's no way I can describe to you a light bulb moment. I'm like, this is what you need to do to get there. Okay, this is how you get there. You just it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Sometimes there's an exception to the rule in pro wrestling that they're just going to figure it out within 6 months to a year, and they're going to be signed in 3. That's very, 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 very rare. For the rest of us, you're going to stumble. You're going to want to quit. You're going to want to leave. You're going to want to change everything up. There's going to be so many different points in time. But the real message I can give you is onwards and upwards, keep pushing. Because I finally, on a whim too, was just cutting a promo for a show. And I used the words, I'm going to be the necessary evil. And I had someone in a very important prime position somewhere down in Florida, maybe, message me and go, there's something with that. Explore that. And from there, I just started to go, okay. So that was a lot of sitting and thinking and looking for influences outside of wrestling. I cannot emphasize this enough. Tape study in wrestling is important, but don't do tape study just in pro wrestling. TV, movies, anything that's entertainment based, pull from that as well. Because that's where I've gotten a lot of my character and a lot of bringing me to the forefront. So I cannot support that idea enough. Don't just tape study in pro wrestling. Explore other avenues. I promise you, it is worth it.
Who's your influences on your style, man? Because I love the clothes you wear, the gear, man, the outfits I see you on the shows with.
So the influence for it was, everyone knows, every time I wear the turtleneck, everyone knows. They're just like, oh, you look like Dwayne Johnson in that one picture. Compliments. Thank you. I'm flattered that you think I look like The Rock. Thank you. But secondly, I think a lot of it just has to do with the airport test. If you're walking through the airport, are people going to notice you and think, that guy's somebody? There's something to him. So I started researching just different styles, and I thought, something that I see a lot of, like, there's tech billionaires, there's people that consider themselves so high and mighty. There's guys and gals in prominent positions, and they're wearing turtlenecks. And I don't know what it was about it, but I just said, I kind of want to wear a turtleneck. So I went on a specific website that everybody knows. I will not name drop it because then everyone's gonna be like, budgeted. I was looking through and I found crushed velvet turtlenecks, and I said, I don't think anybody's wearing those. So I bought like 5, and I started wearing those to shows. And the reception from the locker room and from the people at the shows was just, brother, what are you wearing? But when they gave me that reaction, I knew, okay, I got to do this in the general public. Yeah. So I know people probably find this fascinating, but I dress like that when I'm going to shows on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I'm wearing the turtlenecks. I'm wearing the skinny pants. I'm wearing like the whole nine. And I cannot tell you how many times I've gone into normal gas stations or Walmarts or wherever it may be, stops along the way. And the looks alone from everybody in the store makes that worth it. Yeah. And that tells me that my theory on how I could pass the airport test was right. That if I dress in a certain manner, like a D-bag, like it, as most people probably say, an idiot, you're going to give me attention and you're going to look at me because I'm peacocking. How are you not going to look at me? You know what I mean? So a lot of the style just came from saying, how can I dress different from everybody else, stick out like a sore thumb, and also probably get made fun of in the process. But,
What is it about turtlenecks too? Because like everyone you see, like, because they're far and few between too. It's not like everyone rocks one either. But when you see them, it's like a magnet to the eyes. Like, who is this guy wearing the turtleneck?
Yeah, your immediate thought is, you think you're better than me? And for whatever reason, I just said, you know what? Let me start wearing those. And as soon as I started wearing them, that was the vibe that everybody was giving me, from the wrestlers to the people in the seats to just normal people out in the general public. It was insane how many people would just look at me, and it felt like everybody wanted to fight me. And I said, okay, I think I found my mojo. I think I found it.
Makes your job easier.
Yeah, a lot.
Before you even open your mouth, they already hate you.
Oh, I think I have a lovable face, but I've been told on many occasions that I have the most punchable face in pro wrestling. And I say, okay, that's fair. I got the nicest stash in the game, the sickest stash in the game. These pretty blues, and then I wear turtlenecks that are maybe 2 sizes too tight. So maybe people are onto something. Who's to say?
Yeah, love the mustache too. Was there a thought process that went into it, or is it one of those you accidentally shaved the beard off one day and like, fuck it, I'm gonna rock this?
I wish I had some sort of story for it, but it was November, and when you guys had seen me for the first time live, whenever August and I wrestled down in GCW, that was baby mustache. That was kind of like the beginnings, and only a couple weeks before then, I just shaved down and I kept it, and I was looking at it and I thought, how much can I grow this? And can I just let me play with this and see what happens? And ever since then, it's gotten a very 50-50 reaction, but the thing is, it gets a reaction. So unfortunately for my brain and my wrestling brain and my artist brain, if it gets a reaction, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I was speaking at GCW, you and August, man, in the freezing rain. Was that like the most miserable match you ever had in the condition wise?
Ironically, no.
Because it was pouring, man. It was pouring, it was windy, and it was cold.
So, and for like context too, for anybody that doesn't know, this show, it was cold for every match. I made my entrance, and then the rain started to come down. And then August came out there, and then it started to really come down. And I looked across the ring, I said, oh my God. And he's cursing up a storm, and I'm losing my mind too, because I'm like, bro, we have been waiting on this match for like literal years, and we have been building this up as much as we humanly could. I had people messaging me saying, I wish I had booked that match first. I was sitting there thinking, this is the dream match of a-hole versus a-hole. This is like the perfect, this is a great scenario. And I guess karma might have caught up to us for all of our sins and shenanigans, and decidedly was like, you're going to have to work extra hard now. So funny enough, it wasn't the most miserable conditions because it was a match that I had wanted for quite some time. So in my head, I was already zoned in, locked in. I said, I don't care. I'm going to just do this anyway. I drove with my partners at the time, James and Mila. I drove with them for 10 hours, 11 hours or so. It was something really, really like extensive. So I thought, we're going to make this worth it. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah, props to you because you took off your coat. Like there's two guys on the car that wore their hoodies the whole matches.
It's just the and I'm not saying anything towards anybody else, but it's the professional in me where I know that there's going to be footage and I know it's going to be released. I know people are going to see it, and I just can't. I just can't wear the hoodies. I can't wear the shirts. I can't wear, even if it was blistering hot outside and it was an outdoor show in some parking lot somewhere. I'd put sunscreen on, but I would still, with my pale complexion and everything, be fully exposed and ready to go because I know the footage is going to be out there somewhere and someone's going to see it. So I have to be present at all times and presentable at all times.
Yeah. You said you did a lot of cool stuff so far. What do you think is the coolest thing you've done in the business so far?
I think it's kind of it's a tie kind of all at the top here where it's meeting, befriending, and sometimes wrestling people that I watched growing up. I had a match with Austin Aries in summer last year. I met Buff Bagwell, exchanged numbers with him, and it's wild to me meeting legends and then getting very, very great advice from them, and a lot of compliments and a lot of constructive criticisms and a lot of, you have what it takes, you have something to you, just this is the path that you need to take. It's mind-blowing to me, especially because sometimes as wrestlers, we can get imposter syndrome, and it takes you out of it for a second where you're like, I haven't done any of that. Like there's no way that I've done all this cool stuff. But then you really reflect on it and it hits you that, oh my God, I've accomplished this. Like I've done this. Like I've befriended Hall of Famers. I'm getting advice and numbers from Hall of Famers. It's just the coolest experience to say, hey man, I grew up a degenerate, trampoline guy, and look at where I'm at now. So it's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's gotta be awesome. Like, cause it's one thing to get a reaction from a crowd, but another one to get positive feedback from someone who's been in the business for so long. Someone that you've seen on TV and looked up to.
Absolutely. And the most validating experiences will be, of course, getting a lot of paid fans into the seats and getting the reactions and appropriate reactions from them. But as you said, getting the sage advice and the nod of the tip of the hat from people, oh, you have you have the charisma, you have this magnetism, you have this electricity, you just have a look to you, and ego all the way through the roof. You know what I mean? It's hard not to. It's hard not to be super confident in yourself when you're getting all of this. In addition to, yes, some humbling experiences for those of you that are curious. Yes, of course, there's always those knockout cloud nine moments, of course. Yeah. But it's just it's a really cool experience to seem like somebody in the eyes of people that you grew up watching.
Yeah, but you got to be full of yourself and think you're the shit to be top. You know what I mean? Like, because the people that make it to the top are the guys that know they're gonna go out there and know they're gonna kill it, know they're gonna outshine everybody.
Of course. And I've always thought that if you aren't your own favorite wrestler, then you're doing it wrong. In my personal opinion, I think you need to be your own favorite wrestler. Yes, be your own biggest critic and know what your weaknesses are that you need to work on. But when you put your gear on and you're really just getting in that mental state of I'm about to go out there and perform, you have to be in a mindset of I'm him, I am the guy, or I am the gal. You've got to be there and say, this is my show. I'm about to go out there and steal the show and have the performance of a lifetime, even if it's in front of a crowd that you've never been in front of before or a crowd that you've been in front of 50 times. Same thing every single time. You just need to be your own favorite wrestler.
So people that haven't seen you before, what's like a match you'd point them out to show them who Drew Hood is?
I would say easy thing I can say is just go to my YouTube, y'all. Drew Hood on YouTube. If you look up Drew Hood Wrestling, it's all there. I have a YouTube playlist full of my wrestling matches and content, podcasts and talk shows included. If you look through, and if you really start at the beginning of this playlist, and then I think that was about 2022 or so, and you go to now, the stark difference is just astonishing to me. to see what's happened over the past 3 years or so. It's just been a wild watch and a wild growth. I've wrestled WWE ID guys like Shawn Legacy and Jackson Drake. I've wrestled big names like Austin Aries. Any match I feel like you watch of last year going into this year, you're going to see somebody that just is on the cusp. That is what I like to say right now, that I'm on the cusp of something. Not quite sure what it is yet, but it's right there. And hopefully this is the year that it just blossoms.
I can see that. I can see where it's coming. Like I said earlier, like you can tell, like you're finding your groove, man. You're finding out who you really are.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And it shows. Where's the farthest you've gone to wrestle?
I think Ohio was up there. I went up to New Jersey for the Super 8 tournament. The Super 8 being one of the most prestigious independent professional wrestling tournaments. You guys got like Christopher Daniels was in it, Daniel, Brian Danielson. Got a lot of different huge indie names that have been there before. That one was a long one. Came all the way down to Florida. So I've been like to the tip of the coast on each side, on the north and the south. There's some plans here soon to fly out to the west coast. So this year I'm going to be traveling a lot more. I got to get my passport in order. So, listen and hear that out. So hopefully we turn this into a global sensation. Handsome Devil himself.
Where's been the wildest crowd?
There's a crowd up in RVA Pro Wrestling, Virginia. And it's one of my favorite shows to do because that crowd is, no matter who you are, is electric. They are live from start to finish. It is insane, dude. I remember going out there just with a microphone, and before I could even say anything, they were chanting "Shut the F up" at me for like 3 minutes straight. And I just kind of stood there, and that just gave me some goosebumps. And I was just like, huh. Maybe I do have that kind of face. Maybe I just look, maybe it is the way I look. Maybe people just don't like me. But they're very lively. They chanted "a-hole" at me, "shut the F up," and threatened me on multiple occasions. But do you really believe I would have done anything to instigate? Would I do anything to rile them up like that? Of course not.
Of course
not.
No,
not me.
All right, let's sell some tickets for you. This Saturday, February 22nd, you're in Camden, South Carolina for Palmetto Championship Wrestling's Freaky February. Mm-hmm. Is your first time back since Brave New Year, where you faked an injury and attacked Dennis Parker?
Oh, what? Faked an injury?
No. Sorry, magically healed. Crazy.
No, I just have the healing powers of God. You know what I mean? I just that Friday, that Friday morning, that Friday afternoon, something popped, and then Saturday, I don't know what it was. It was just the powers that be, the spirits just came inside, and I was just ready to go, and I was perfectly fine. But yes, that'll be my first time back in Palmetto after taking my rightful place at the top of the food chain. So yes, we'll see how PCW and PCW's faithful in Camden respond to me, and it better be favorable, or else.
Well, there's gonna be some more going their way. March 7th, you're in Greensboro, North Carolina for Firestar Pro Wrestling. What are those Greensboro crowds like, man? Because that city's legendary for wrestling.
They are a great time. And the fact that these shows are like later in the evening too, and by evening, I do mean night, by like 10 p.m. midnight. But bar shows, special place in my heart, because you talk about wild fan bases, bar shows will do it to you. They are lively. They are vocal. And they are very present in what's going on. So we'll be lighting up Greensboro that day.
You said the show start later on at night?
Mm-hmm.
Is that harder for you?
Do
you find a difference from like a 6 p.m. show compared to doing a match like at 9:30 at night?
I'm not calling myself old, but I am saying I'm getting older. So these late night shows, that you get to a certain point in the evening and the night, and you say, I could really use some sleep right about now. But that's what caffeine is for. That's what caffeine and C4 and Ghost and all these other energy drinks are for. They're totally healthy and have no ramifications whatsoever.
And that's not too much of a long drive for you home, then, I guess.
Oh, no, just an hour. Easy.
Yeah, easy peasy for you. March 15th, you're in Heidenite, North Carolina for Apple City Championship Wrestling 2nd anniversary. You're defending the championship against a guy who was your homeboy, right?
That's me defending my title against Cam Jackson, who I broke into the business with. We've been riding and dying together essentially for the past several years, and well, I just had to take the title from him. So we're finally doing this one last time on March 15th, and may the best handsome devil win.
Did you beat him for the championship cleanly?
Next show.
You're talking about RVA Pro March 21st. Yep. I'm assuming you're gonna have a lot of guys waiting for you there, right?
Yeah, and it's a heavyweight title tournament as well. So we'll see who steps up to face a North Carolinian in a Virginian ring, and that Virginian ring being claimed by that North Carolinian. That is my playground. That is my ring, and I dare anybody to step up and take it from me.
Is the championship vacant or just for the number one contendership?
They are introducing new championships, a women's championship and a men's heavyweight championship. So it'll be a tournament over the next few months to decide who is going to be that first guy and first gal. And I'm here to tell you that my track record in promotions is within 6 months to a year, I've become the top guy.
Drew 3 belts.
Mm-hmm. I'm feeling it. I'm really feeling it. I'm feeling another win here. Yeah.
And then March 22nd, you're back at Palmetto Championship Wrestling. I'm assuming if Dennis doesn't get you, he's going to get you then, right?
I was about to say, hopefully there's no hateful people there. Hopefully they understand that everything's just business. It's never personal. Yeah, PCW, just accept the fact that I'm your top guy now.
Sure, a lot of people are going to love to see that.
Oh, yeah.
Before I let you go, Champ, one last question for you. What's something you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
Epsom salt baths, dynamic stretching before matches, a proper gym structure and program, proper dieting, and don't trust anybody except for yourself.
Solid advice. You want to call anybody out?
Oh,
you got enough haters.
I got enough haters. I'm public enemy number one in most places. But what I will say, instead of calling out anybody specific, I'll just call anybody out in general. I am in the prime of my independent professional wrestling career right now. I have discovered my best self, my elite self. I have discovered the self that is presentable for television purposes one day. So if you think that you can step up and out-talk me, out-walk me, out-wrestle me, out-entertain me, please, by all means, try. But, spoiler alert, the handsome devil don't play. So, devil's in the details.
I want to see you in August running back.
Please, inside.
Under a roof.
Inside, or if it was like where Full Impact runs out of, like that motorcycle house, which is a really dope location. Been there once. It's super cool. At least there's a roof. And there's some heat. That's fine too. Like a little overhead, a little heat. That's fine.
Stop the Raven coming in. What can they find you at?
If you look up Drew Hood on most places, you're gonna see this pretty face right here. You look at me up on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Drew Hood, everywhere. Yep. And for those of you wondering, yes, those were my personal pages that when I became a wrestler and just kept my name, immediately became my professional pages. They are all the same. So if you look up Drew Hood, that's the correct one.
Did you have to scrub it or no? You kept it. Kept all the
There's some stuff like cringy middle school statuses. The spelling and the grammatical errors are just so apparent. And I'm a stickler for that sort of thing. So every day Facebook memories pops up. I scroll and I'm looking through. I'm like, God, cringe, delete. Oh man, I'm posting music lyrics from My Chemical Romance like it matters. So let me just go ahead and delete that. It's no. If you dig deep enough, I'm sure there's probably something cringeworthy, but for the most part, scrubbed.
Yeah, I had at one point to go through and purge a lot of stuff because I was like, oh, because 20 and 21, the pictures and stuff you post, and then on Facebook, all the stupid stuff you used to write, like, oh man, like same thing, delete.
Yep. Yeah, and people mature as they get older. Usually. Usually people mature as they get older. So there's a lot of things that you see and you go, I'm glad I grew up. I'm glad someone taught me better. I'm glad that I'm not that way anymore. Past me, get out of here. Absolutely not.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Drew, man, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it, man. I look forward to what you're doing, man. I'm a big fan of what you're doing out there.
And I hope to be down back that way towards Florida soon. So hint, hint, August, if you want to do this again, let's do it indoors, please.
Let's go, August. I'm gonna let them know after this is done. Yo, we got to get you back out there with Drew Hood down there. OCC Roadhouse. I'll drive to Clearwater for that.
Hey, I'll drive to Clearwater for that. Please.
Yeah.
Please, by all means.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it again, man. You guys have a good night.
You as well. Thank you.